Supersonic, Steve Stefanik at your service. Thank you for this opportunity to chat. Today, we're going to talk about being a badass on Zoom. That's right, being a badass on Zoom. And that word sometimes can provoke some different connotations. So, what I'm going to do is just define that real quickly. What I mean by being a badass is be your biggest, your boldest, and your best. Your biggest, your boldest, and the best. And you know what? On the Zoom platform, and in this COVID world, it's really hard to be a badass because, how can I be big and bold and bad on this platform that's so small? How can I show up in a way that really moves people when I've only got a 2-inch screen? How can I be the best that I can be when COVID and everything else is pressing people down? So not only do we have that challenge, but we have this thing called Zoom fatigue that our ability to stay focused, our ability to be fully engaged, our ability to be not worn out after all these meetings over and over and over have caused us to basically have this thing called Zoom fatigue. And it's all over the press, it's all over the articles, and it's a very fascinating thing. But if we're experiencing that ourselves, then our customers are experiencing that as well. And this is where the opportunity is. To be a badass means that we're going to overcome that objection. We're going to move forward and do something big, bold, and badass, right? So there's a guy in the marketplace, and you've all heard of him, I'm sure, is Tony Robbins. And, he used to do in-person conferences, 8 to 10,000 people. And his whole business model was thrown out the window. And it took him like 4 months to kind of get through the grieving process, he called it. But he finally woke up on the other side and said, hey, maybe I can really do something special with the Zoom platform. And so he started to innovate, and he's come up with the Zoom Stadium. He's come up with all kinds of stuff. And he went from doing 8 to 10,000 person events to 30,000 person Zoom events with the same energy, the same excitement, the same bigness, the same badassery. So there are opportunities. And by the way, he's forecasting he's going to do a 1 million person Zoom event, 1 million person Zoom event. And his biggest used to be 10,000 in January. So the opportunity is there for us to show up in a whole different frame of mind. So how do we take advantage of it at this time, right? There's a couple things we can do. And the first one is to think about our margin. Margin means that time that we can carve out for ourselves to regenerate, to turn us into that opportunity that we can be our best, right? So for instance, if you have a 30-minute meeting, cut it back to 25. If you got an hour meeting, cut it back to 45 minutes and put hard boundaries, hard stops on those. And why that's important is it gives you the opportunity, one, to go to the bathroom, one, to eat, right? But it also gives you an opportunity to kind of refresh, re-engage, go outside, stand up, do what you need to do to recharge yourself. They say that, always put the oxygen mask on you first. Well, this is the chance. The Zoom fatigue is affecting everybody. Put your mask on first, restore yourself. And the first way to do that is with margin. But now you have the margin in your day. You have some extra moments. You're going to take a nap. That's a possibility. But there's other ways to recharge yourself. And I'm going to show you 3 real simple ones. And one of them, it has to do, I'm a somatic coach, and it has to do with the body. So when we get the body moving, we get more energy. And more energy allows us to focus, allows us to be more creative. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to stand up. Now, the joke here is if you're wearing underwear, right, or if you're wearing your PJs, right, turn your video off or adjust your camera. So just stand up. See what it's like to stand up on a Zoom call. You probably 99.9% of your calls have been on your seat, right? What's it like to again, own this space, move in this space? I'm standing up. I'm able to move. I'm able to coordinate. I'm able to dance around. And all this movement gives me energy. It gives you energy too. Start moving the body. See what it feels like to be alive. Can you imagine going into a Zoom call where you're standing up and you're talking to your customer with that kind of energy, that kind of intensity? Yeah, you're going to have to condition yourself a little bit. But at the same time, nobody's doing this. So this is a way to really stand out, not only for yourself and feel better about yourself because you have that margin, because you have this opportunity to generate that new energy, you're going to distinguish yourself above the rest. The second area is when you do stand up, how do you stand up? Can you stand up with absolute certainty? Like certainty, like there's no one that's gonna stop me. That's absolute certainty. And there's a real quick, life hack or trick that I can show you. Touch your sternum right here and just lift that up. Just lift that up that little bit, quarter inch, 1 inch, half inch, whatever it takes to feel like absolute certainty. So in the somatic world of coaching that I do, I work with people's bodies. And one of the things is to realign the body to be in its optimum position to perform. Amy Cuddy talks about power stances, right? Get yourself in this energetic energy that you are unstoppable. And in that, it will start to shift your mindset. It'll start to shift your language. It'll start to shift your customers of who you're hanging out with. So think about that. Can you stand there now that I have you standing up, touch your sternum, and just feel unstoppable? Let that go through your psyche. And if you're having a tough time doing it, fake it. Part of what Amy Cuddy's study said is like if you put your body in that place, even if you're in a terrible mood, your body will shift your mood. It will shift your language. So this is one of the life hacks that I think we lose when we're sitting in our chair. The second or the third area I want to bring forth, now that we're standing up, we got energy, you feel alive. Joe, Bill, right? Feel alive. Your sternum, let me see the absolute certainty. Everybody, absolute certainty. And then it's like, okay, we're in our presentation, we're in our conversation, and something's going to hit us. How do we recenter? And I call this leadership presence or centered presence. And in that, our body is set up what we call 3 dimensions. We got this thing called length. We have this ability to extend to the heavens above and ground to the core of the earth. We are the conduit between heaven and earth, and there's some power in that. We have an ability to extend like a hula hoop, a ring around us of energy that can fill a room or pull away from a room. Our ability to control that and feel things, feel the planet, feel others, right? And in that, we have a 6th sense that's developed. And then lastly, there are depth. We have our 3-dimensional being. We have length, width, and depth. Depth is a future that I'm looking towards. There's always something out in front of us. And then a past that I'm bringing with me. And that past can either be an anchor that pulls me back, or it can be 2 hands that hold me strong. Your job is to make that interpretation on the back. Your job is to see a future that doesn't pull you so far in that you fall on your face. And as I work with people in these distinctions, length, width, and depth, you can start to see where people are off balance. If they're walking around with head heavy, head down, right? They're losing the inspiration. They're losing the leadership. If you're in Zoom fatigue and you come into a meeting with your head down, you're not going to inspire anybody. You're not going to get insights. You're not going to perspective. If you get so riled up that you don't have any ground, people are going to undercut you. So our body is a really key resource that most of us haven't developed to become part of our toolbox. So as we go into these meetings, as we go into these opportunities, that we're fully present. A leadership presence is something huge. And again, in my workshops and in my other work, I spend much more time on this. But today, I just wanted to give you the 4 things. One is margin. Start putting boundaries around your time. You have to put that oxygen mask on so you can breathe. And in that time of breathing, you want to work on your energy. One way to bring energy immediately is to stand up. The second is you want to work on your mindset and your language and get into this absolute certainty. And you can trick yourself into that by using your sternum as a way to like, I'm big, I'm bold, I'm bad. And the third one is to be in the leadership presence, that when the world comes in, how do you readjust? Instead of being contracted and small, let's open up. Let's get back in our length. Let's open up to what's possible around us. Let's set our sights in the future and bring a positive past with us that can support us all along the way. To be a badass on Zoom means, one, you're just present. right? You're leveraging the things that you already have available to you, and you're getting out of what they call the herd factor that everybody's fallen into. And you're accelerating in ways like Tony Robbins did. He'll be able to reach 1 million people in one conference. Supersonic, Steve Stefanik at your service. Thank you very much for your time.